In a world constantly seeking perfection and performance, how do people find true fulfillment and impact? Today's story follows one man's journey from minister and motivational speaker to becoming a beacon of hope and resilience.
My phone is full of some of the saddest text messages, people in their worst of times, and I get the ability and the opportunity to encourage those people.
Ryan Leake's path is a testament to the power of faith and perseverance. His story begins in the pulpit, offering solace and guidance as a minister, but his mission extended beyond the church walls, reaching into the very heart of some of the biggest companies in corporate America.
I think I have the gift of encouragement. And the whole idea behind encouragement is this idea that you are putting courage in somebody.
It's in this unique intersection of personal faith and professional guidance where Ryan found his calling. He embraced his identity, refusing to compartmentalize his role as a minister from his passion for inspiring others in their careers.
This is who I am. I don't want you to hide who you are. I'm not going to hide who I am. I'm going to deliver a keynote. I'm at the highest level that I know how to.
I'm Dr. Jessica Kriegel, and this is Culture Leaders, where we decode the magic behind the masters of movements. This is the story of Ryan Leake, master of a movement intertwining spiritual resilience with corporate empowerment.
You're listening to a Culture Partners production.
Here we are with Ryan Leake. My first and favorite question is always, what is your why?
I think when I wake up in the morning, I think that there are so many people navigating so many things. They're navigating pain, they're navigating insecurities, and I think I have the gift of encouragement. And the whole idea behind encouragement is this idea that you are putting courage in somebody. That's how I think of my day. Every single day, I want to put courage inside of people to be able to do things they never thought that they could ever do in their life. And sometimes that's starting their own business. Sometimes that's forgiving somebody that hurt them. But I think I've been given a gift to give people the courage to pull off things they never thought they could. So that's my why.
Well, I love that being your why, because that's what you do for me. I've been the person that you've put courage into, and it's not every day I get to interview someone on this podcast that is not just someone I look up to, but someone that I call a friend. And you are someone I call a friend. And what I love about you and what I would say about you and have said about you to anyone that listens is you walk the walk. You're a keynote speaker who walks the walk off stage. And the story I will tell to the audience to get a sense of how you walk the walk. I mean, we met when we were both keynoting at the same event in Chicago. And we just chatted in the lobby. Hey, nice to meet you, keynote speaker. We exchanged a few interesting stories, and then we stayed in contact. And a few months later, you called me. Your career is bigger than my career. I'm just going to put that out there, right? And so you called me.
That, but yeah.
Well, whatever. You called me. And you said, hey, just thinking about you, wanted to know if there's anything that I can do for you today. That was the purpose of your call. That doesn't happen in the business world. It doesn't. I mean, it happened once with me, with you. I have started doing it to people because it inspired me so much. Yeah. But that's remarkable because especially in the world of keynote, everyone is trying to get something from everyone else. And I have this sense that many people in business, I call them the wanters. Now, there are people that want something, that are trying to network to get something, who are always looking over your shoulder to see if someone more important is behind you. And you're not that. So I had to brag about you for a minute, brag about me getting to be your friend.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to dig into today. You've done so many things, right? You're a filmmaker, you're an author, you're a keynote speaker, you're a preacher. And the thing I want to ask you about, of all the plethora of topics we could talk about, is how you marry. This is one of the first things I asked you about. Being a preacher, being a man of God, and speaking to corporate leaders,
Yeah.
and how you intertwine those two things or not, the boundaries of appropriate workplace conversation and your beliefs. I mean, that's complicated, right? Do you feel like that's complicated? You make it look easy.
I feel like it used to be more complicated until I just gave myself permission to essentially just be myself. And what I get to do in the church is I have what I like to call a PhD in pain, because I get a front row seat to people in their darkest hour. When people are having the worst time of their life, whether they're a Christian or not, they look for somebody like me with faith. And so my phone is full of some of the saddest text messages, people in their worst of times. And I can tell you how many times I've been out with my wife. I can tell you how many times I've been on vacation with my wife. I'm just like, oh, babe, look, what happened to this person, or this person's getting divorced, or, oh, they lost a child, or their husband left them, or just the worst of the worst of the worst. And it's like, and I get the ability and the opportunity to encourage those people. Well, guess what? Those people have jobs. Crazy concept. Crazy.
No.
So I just started owning it. I just started letting corporate America go, I actually know what your people are dealing with. They never tell you. I have the ability, even through our executive coaching practice, my corporate unique gifting is I can get just about anybody to tell me how they're actually doing. And so I've just leaned into it in the sense of this is who I am. I don't want you to hide who you are. I'm not going to hide who I am. Ultimately, companies around the world have paid me to deliver a keynote. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to deliver a keynote. I'm at the highest level that I know how to. I am consistently tweaking my keynotes every single day, constantly, because I'm addicted to getting better. I'm not trying to be better than another speaker. I'm trying to be better than Ryan was yesterday. And so in that, I'm trying to deliver a very high quality service to an organization or to leaders. And inevitably, when that organization admires the work that I've put into my craft, that's where they ask questions like you do. So tell me your why. What gets you out of bed in the morning? And then I'm able to share my faith. I was speaking for a well-known retail chain, and a lady walked up to me and she said, I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but here it is. My son has an incurable disease. I don't know why I would share that with you. I haven't shared that with anybody here. I said, I know exactly why you're sharing that with me. She said, why? I go, because I talk to a God every day that specializes in incurable diseases. Can I pray for your son? And so I prayed for her son in a book line. She was like, that was amazing. It's like, what else do you do with incurable diseases? What do you expect me to do? And I mean, executives are like, dude, that was incredible, because who's going to come and pray for their team? You know, that's not what they paid me to do, but that's what was asked of me in that moment. This is, you know, a woman that just wants her baby to be better. And so I've just found that, like, you know, in my keynote, I don't lead with it. I lead with my craft, being excellent at what I do. And inevitably, faith conversations typically always come up. And if you Google me, it's going to be really hard to see that I'm not a Christian. It's just is what it is. If you YouTube me, you're going to find like 1,000 sermons. It is what it is. But what I try to do is I try to make every keynote that I do not about me. It's about that organization. And I've just found that when you do that, if you are a believer, it's amazing what they will make space for when you put them first and serve them well.
So what do you need encouragement around? What is your challenge? What's the thing that weighs heavy on your heart?
I mean, you and I have talked about it before. I think it's all of the other ancillary products that go around a growing speaking business. I think the elephant in the room with speaking businesses is that they don't last forever and they're very difficult to scale. So you're always having to figure out what are going to be those offshoot products that you're able to, I guess, upsell a company, which is really not my style at all. But thinking about the future of my business and what that looks like. And so that those are the things that I'm always trying to navigate, and I guess you could say needing encouragement around.
Okay, so here's my biggest question, and the thing that I probably think about more than any other thing.
Yeah.
My story, I was a lifelong atheist. I had a spiritual experience that brought me to my knees, literally. And in a moment, I became a believer. And I didn't know what I believed in because I had never been to church. So I thought, okay, there's definitely something out there. I went to divinity school. I went to a different church every Sunday for a year and a half. And I read the Bible. And that was quite interesting to read the Bible, because I was shocked to learn that making money isn't exactly like the goal, right? According to Jesus. And I kind of felt like I had this existential crisis that began and never ended, which is, how can I be someone in the world trying to make money, trying to help people make money, keynoting at corporations, helping CEOs drive results through culture, sure. But ultimately, we're trying to drive results for capitalism. And yet, that's kind of the opposite of the point. And I don't know I still every day wake up and think, what am I doing? Is this okay? How do I be in a world that feels opposite of the thing that my faith is pulling me towards? How do you consolidate or integrate those ideas for yourself?
What a phenomenal question. So one of the things that I don't always lead with, but if you were ever in a coaching relationship with me, you will find out some of the value systems of how we do business. And so for our business, we don't measure success. I say our business, really our life, if I'm honest. We don't measure our business by revenue or income. We actually measure our business by giving. So every single year, we don't have revenue goals, we have giving goals. And these giving goals are astronomical. And it goes up significantly every single year. In fact, our CPA and accountant calls me every few months and says, "Are you sure this is what you want to keep doing?" Our tax people are like, "Are you sure this is what you want to be doing?" And so every single time I say, absolutely, without question. And what's funny is over the past few years, my speaking career has taken off, which I'm incredibly grateful for. But if you really want to know my secret sauce, it's really our giving took off. But our giving took off before the speaking took off. Now, I know that. Everyone else around me doesn't know that. But the minute we said, hey, we've always lived by giving goals. My wife and I have been married 10 years. But our giving goals, I wouldn't even say that they were small. They were definitely more than average. But the minute we started eyeing 6-figure and 7-figure giving as goals, our business drastically changed. And that's how I truly balance my inherent belief systems that are very much rooted in a lot of scripture and what I do for businesses. I was talking about my fee because obviously we have to have those conversations all the time with different engagement. And I was after talking with the church the other day and was talking with them about my church speaking fee, which is a very, very awkward conversation. But it's gotten less awkward because what I told them was, I said, hey, this is my fee, but just so you know, we're going to give it all away. It's like, it's like, yeah, it's more than you've ever paid for a guest speaker. And I get that. However, we're going to give it all the way anyway. So all ministry money that we get it's gone. I mean, we just give it away, and lots of business money too. But it's just that's so it's yes. While we are trying to grow things and get better and grow revenue, essentially, as most businesses are, the reason we're doing that is so that we can only just give more and more and more and more and more. And so generosity is at the crux of how we balance both worlds.
I mean, how do I make every CEO be like you?
Well, I mean, that's part of what we, and it's because it's amazing. I sit with people that make way more than I do. And then they ask me similar questions to you. Like, so how do you do your business? I go, well, we kind of have opposite businesses. I'm trying to make as much money as I possibly can, just for different reasons. So we have the same drive, but we just have a different purpose.
Yeah.
And so, but then I begin to tell stories of the different organizations that we support and the things that we're contributing to the world around us. And then it's like, oh, well, maybe our family should start doing that. I'm like, maybe. But when people ask me, hey man, what's the number one thing that I should do if I want my speaking career to take off? I always chuckle because I think, I don't know if you're really going to like my actual answer. Because I think they're thinking, well, if you just work on your craft and if you just work on your storytelling, I'm like, no, just
give it all.
You have such a heart of generosity. And I truly believe beyond the monetary value of what we give, I think the generous spirit that my team carries, the generous spirit that I carry with my clients contributes to people going, I think you should have Ryan Lee. And he was not only a communicator, but you got to meet this guy. Like, you're going to enjoy just talking to this guy. He's so kind. He's so, all of these different things that all stem from a heart of generosity. It stems from a thing of saying, hey, I am not on this planet to get something from other human beings. I am on this planet to give something to human beings. And so whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's a talent or a gifting, I think it's important that in our company, you work for Ryan, you better be a giver.
Were you always like this? Or did you have a transformative experience? Or were you raised like this?
So have you read the whole Bible, or you just started? Like, what haven't you read?
Oh, that's a great question. I've read the whole New Testament. I'm like halfway through the Old Testament right now.
Okay, great. We'll have another offline conversation about what you're going to get into, which is going to be really awesome. So in Acts, Jesus is quoted. We don't know when he said this because it's not in the four Gospels, but in Acts, Jesus is quoted in red. If you have one of those Bibles that goes from black and red, and all the red is what Jesus said. In red, in Acts, you'll see this phrase that Jesus is quoted as saying, it is better to give than receive. I read that one day and I thought, I don't know, because I like receiving stuff.
How old were you when you read that day?
I don't know. I was probably 8. I mean,
okay.
You know, it's just like, I don't know. We'll see. But I just thought, this is going to be one of those scriptures and verses that I really put to the test. Let's just see what happens. I had a youth pastor who he makes $50 a week. I knew it because it was like the joke at our church about how broke all the interns were. He would take $5 of his 50 and buy me lunch once a week. And that impacted me. I thought, here is this person who is not wealthy, rich by any stretch of the imagination, but this person is generous. And I thought, I want to be like that. So, at a very, very young age, I started practicing this generosity thing. And I'm a living testament of the words of Jesus. It is far better to give than receive. I was speaking for Delta the other day, and this guy sees me walking off the stage. He says, "Dude, that was remarkable." I said, "Man, thanks, man. I appreciate it." He goes, "But man, what I really want from you is those shoes you got on." And I said, "Man," he said, "Jordan 1s?" I said, "Jordan 1s, man." I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Hey, man, here's the deal. If you're a size 13, consider them yours." He goes, "Well, I am a size 13. And I said, "All right." I grabbed my suitcase, took off my shoes, handed them to him, put on my running shoes that I had in my bag. And I said, "Hey, man, what's your name?" My name's DeMarcus. We started just chatting about it. Because, "Are you really giving me your shoes?" And I went, "Dude, they're just shoes. They're just like, I'm on the planet to give." And one of the VPs of Delta, he called me like a week later. He goes, "There's this story going around Delta right now. Did you give a guy your shoes on the way out?" And I went, he asked for them. I didn't know. I didn't offer. He asked. I said, "Sure." So it's like, but I would have given away a pair of shoes when I was 16 years old. Like that's actually not that new. I truly believe it's better to give. That story is better than if I would have said, "Hey, guess what? I spoke at Delta and they gave me a pair of shoes." You go, "Okay,
Right.
must be nice. You're a speaker and people like giving you stuff." Okay. But the others are just so much better. It's actually inspiring. You kind of go, "Man, is there some stuff I could give away?" And then you think about the stuff you're not giving away. You're like, "Why am I holding on to it?" So I don't know. Call me crazy.
So you're not crazy, but let me ask you this, because I'll just speak from my experience. I think people are listening right now and they're probably like, "That's cool, right? I should be more like that." And I have experience being someone that for years, I mean, when I was an atheist, when you don't believe in a higher power, you think you are the highest power, right? So you think
Wow.
you're the center of the universe and that you can manage things, that you're in charge. And I actually went to this seminar that was all about, you were the writer, director, and producer of your movie. So that gave me the idea that I was really in control, right? And
Wow.
that is what a lot of manifesting stuff gets misunderstood to be, that really you can create anything if you just think about it hard enough, right?
Wow.
But I remember thinking when I was in that when I was that person, and I will say that when I was that person, because I am different now that I'm sober and I've got 3 years of sobriety coming up in a few days.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's different. It's real different, because before I thought humility was something I should really try and get more of. I should try and get more. I wanted to get more humble, right? And so I would listen to someone like you talk and I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let me get some of that humility." And then you can't get humility. It's not how it works, but I didn't have the understanding, the ability. I didn't have the faith. I didn't have whatever it takes to be humble. It was a desired trait.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got sober and in the 12 steps, you have to do a lot of service. They just feed it into you from day one. You need to go serve. Your sponsor is constantly telling you to go do things for others. And you're like, "What are you talking about? I'm trying to get sober right now. Why are you telling me to go clean this person's house? I'm trying to stay sober," right? And they're like, "Yeah, go clean her house. Go drive her to a meeting," because when you serve, you get out of yourself and then it starts to all click. And now humility became a gift that felt like grace. I was given the gift of humility eventually, but it wasn't because I wanted it. So for the people who are listening, who are like, "It'd be great to get me some of that generosity," right? Or who don't have it intuitively in them.
Yeah.
How do you get that? How do you become that is maybe the better question. How do you coach to that?
Yeah. I think it's just like anything else in terms of you got to have goals. And so if you've never been philanthropic, let's say, make it a goal this year to give $100 to something bigger than yourself. $100. I'm willing to bet that a lot of the people listening today probably could do $100 a month. Well, now we're at $1,200. And let's just say you're in one of those positions where, if you're honest, you might be able to afford $1,200 a month. Do you see what happens? But most people are like, I'll give $1 million once I have $1 million. This is like, no, if you won't give 100, you won't give $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a generous heart will follow you wherever you go. A greedy heart will also follow you wherever you go. And if you're not good at managing $100,000, you're not going to magically get better at managing $1 million. It's all just math at the end of the day. And that's really how we grew in our giving. We started just using different language. Oh, we can't do that. Can't or won't.
Mm.
We're talking about ability, or we're talking about desire. And I think anybody listening right now can make a decision to say, all right, this is the kind of person I want. But you get two choices in life, I believe. You could be the kind of person that says, I want to make 6 figures. Wonderful. Or you could be the kind of person that says, I want to give 6 figures. Two completely different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, it was like, if you made 6 figures, you were somebody. Not in my world. In my world, it's like, there's actually a gathering of philanthropists that you have to, there's a giving benchmark. And some of those people live off of 10% of their income and hit that benchmark. And there's some people that are billionaires, and that benchmark isn't even 0.1% of their net worth. But that room is full of people that have a heart that says, we are not here for us. We're here to help other people. And so I think anybody can make that decision. I think anybody can make that decision right now to say, well, if I want to be a different person, regardless of your religious beliefs, regardless of your upbringing, regardless of what you've been talking about money, regardless of what you believe about business, I think anybody can wake up tomorrow and go, I'm going to budget who I would like to be in the future. It's part of our budget. It's part of our budget. This is who we'd like to be in the future. And so that could be, you could sponsor a compassion child, where you are supporting a child's food and clothing in another part of the world. And there's a nonprofit organization called Compassion who's known and reputable for this type of thing. You can do that for $38 a month. If you want to be generous, you can be. But if you are just in this to make a name for yourself or build up your brand or whatever, again, I don't actually think that there's anything wrong with that. A lot of great friends that do that and do that well. But if we're talking about having a truly meaningful life, one that is generous, one that is full of humility, I think it goes from making it all about what you can get to what you can get to leverage to be able to help other people.
So what is your perspective on the state of work today and what you're seeing with the increased unionization? There was a New York Times article that just came out about doctors and pharmacists revolting because they're feeling put upon by the healthcare administrators that are their overlords that are disconnected from the patient and yet telling them how to run, which is the same experience that the baristas at Starbucks are having, that the manufacturing frontline workers at Ford are having. I mean, union activity is growing because people are feeling oppressed by corporations.
Sure.
And corporations are really trying to figure that out. What is your viewpoint on that? What do you think when you see those headlines?
there's a lot of, it's interesting, like the first part of this episode, we've talked a lot about generosity, but there is, I think that's the result you get when greed is at the center of your business. And so there are so many decisions that are made in every industry that it really comes down to money and control and power. There's very few industries that are truly pure in that manner. One of the healthcare systems, the largest one in Texas that I get to speak for a couple of times a year, one of the questions I ask each of my clients on a pre-event call is I say, hey, is there any unique language you want me to use when speaking to your organization? I want to make sure that I speak healthcare in a way that relates to the audience. And I also want to make sure that I'm referring to things the way that they would. So for example, with this particular healthcare system, they don't refer to the people in their hospitals as patients anymore. They got rid of that language. They call them customers. And the reason they said that they did that is they said patients, when we did that, it made the doctors and nurses the center of attention. And the world revolved around the doctor. But customer put us all in the frame of mind of we want to give a great customer experience, customer service, patient service. Like nobody really uses that terminology. And so they refer to them as customers, and they really want to give them the best possible experience. And so that's an example of one good story, I would say, of a whole system saying, hey, we've got to look at things differently, and we've got to make some adjustments. And so, but there's, when you start peeking behind the curtain of a lot of businesses, ultimately there can be a very, very, very a strong sense of greed that I think impedes good business, in the sense of saying, hey, how can we serve our customers at the highest level? And obviously, I don't think the whole world is greedy, but I think when I see headlines like that, I think, well, yeah, that's what you expect to happen.
Do you feel conflicted about being part of the system?
Sometimes. It's yes, small yes, primarily no. I think that the system needs bright lights. Like sometimes there can be let's revolt against the system and let's take them down. Like, well, guess what? They're not going down. They got way too much.
Right.
Promise.
Corporations always win.
You're not going to win that court battle. You're not going to win. Like, they're going to settle up, or you might get a check, but bro, you're not winning that battle. And so for me, I'm like, it's not if you can't beat them, join them. But there is something about having enough influence to have a seat at the table to be able to share the story I just shared with you and go, well, hey, I built my business by giving. And then you're on a board, and people start looking around going, you do what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just imagine how much money we would have to make to be in that kind of position. And just imagine because there are some organizations that say, we will match your charitable donation up to 20 grand. If you give it, we'll give it. I said, just imagine what your people could pull off if they were like inspired and felt like their work mattered. And by the way, if you aren't paying attention to younger generations, that stuff actually matters to them. And so having a seat at the table to be able to share those things is important. And so sometimes I think in our aggression and in our belief system, we can get so frustrated or angry at the system that we lose our influence to be able to impact or influence the system. As a person of influence, I really do consistently consider, is this a hill I want to die on today in light of the influence I want to have tomorrow? not for my followers on social media, but thinking about the amount of influence that I can have in boardrooms with C-suite executives because of my posture. They are more likely and open to hear from somebody like me that they have gained respect for and knows that I'm going to do my business with the highest level of integrity that I possibly can. So I'll take that bet any day. So I'm very much a long game thinker in that way of just going, hey, let's not get so wrapped up in 2024 that we forget about the 2025 will come, and so will 2026. And in light of what we want to accomplish then, we might want to think about what we're saying and posting today and thinking about how we can really add value to the world around us. So those are some things that I often think about, but I rest pretty well at night knowing that when any organization gives me their platform for an hour and a microphone and some slides, I think one of the things that I do, one of my keynotes based off of my latest book, Leveling Up, is I make the whole room answer the question, what's my definition of success? What's my definition of success? I always say the key word is my, because if you're not careful, you will inherit someone else's definition of success. And perhaps you might get really good at it. And one day you'll wake up and realize you're living out somebody else's dream. And in that moment, I begin to share my personal definition of success. And I always say this, I say, you don't need to have mine, but you do need to have yours. And make sure it's not your parents. And make sure it's not your bosses. Make sure that's yours. I am extremely proud of the work that I get to do in corporate America. And when I talk about that question, I put up a picture of my son. And I talk about how a major part of my definition of success is that the people that know me best respect me the most, because I would hate to have a career where strangers clap for me all the time, but the people that actually know me go, well, if you only knew the real one. I would hate that. And so I am very proud of my definition of success. And sometimes I'm able to share that we measure success in our organization and in our family by what we give, not by what we get. So in those moments, while I might see greed in the room, I'll do that at sales conferences. And the event planner's kind of going, come on, ramp them up to get more. I got to come in and go, I mean, I really do want you to win. I do. I really, really do. I just feel like I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't make you pause and ask some serious questions about what we're all doing and why we're all doing it. Why are we all working so stinking hard to impress strangers? I don't understand. And so I have been given the permission to talk about some of these things in my corporate engagements. And so I feel proud of the work that we're able to do.
Last question before we go to the callers. So I'm writing a book right now about how to get people to give a rip. Like, how do you get people to care? And that is a question we get the most often from leaders is how do I get my workforce to care about the goals that we have? And there's a lot of talk about show them how they connect to the goals. And once they could see the way that they're making an impact in the company, they'll care more. But that's not a given. Just because you show me how the work I do is going to impact the goals doesn't make me care about the goals. And there's a whole start with why. And we've been talking about starting with why since Simon Sinek's TED Talk 20 years ago. And it's not getting better. So how do you get people to care? Or do you? Is that the wrong question?
I don't think it's the wrong question. I think in my line of work, I'm always looking for ways to inspire people. I think there is a lot of conversation in our line of work around performance. And if someone is not doing good, how do you put them on a performance improvement plan? How do you get them to, hit their metrics, so on and so forth. I like to bring in a different word that starts with the letter P. I don't like to just sit on the performance conversation. I love having the potential conversation. It's a fun conversation. So instead of us saying, hey, your performance needs to improve, it's us going, hey, can I tell you something? I really see your potential. I see something in you. I see you being able to lead, because there's two kinds of mindsets. There's an hourly mindset. I hope I get $1 more an hour. And there's salary mindsets. Somebody that has enough confidence to be able to walk into a room and say, hey, you need to start paying me $20,000 more. It's a completely different mindset. To be able to look somebody in the eye and go, I think you could run this place someday. And for you to be able to do that, here's the gap between where you are and where I think you could be. And I'm in your life to help you reach your ceiling. And sometimes to lift the ceiling on what you can do. It's a completely different conversation than get your act together and your performance needs to improve. And so I love having conversations with people about their potential. And here's the interesting thing. They may not care about the work that I need them to do. But I've rarely met a person that didn't care about their own potential.
Mm-hmm.
You start to see the wheels turning to go, okay, here are the steps of what you can become, and here's what I see, and I'm going to give you a shot. I believe in you. Do you know what employees can do when they're believed in by their leader? When a leader is able to look them in the eyes and say, this is what I see in you. Most people that even work for great leaders are still trying to figure out where they stand with that leader and what they see in them. So when it comes to, getting people to care, I don't think it's that you're trying to get them to care about their job. I think you're trying to meet them where they're at what they already care about, which is ultimately their destiny. And so showing how this is part of where you're going. You giving your best here will determine if you can handle what's there. And so I think that those are some things that can help somebody. I wouldn't say help them care more, but I think it is something powerful and inspiring when someone is showing up to their job every single day, consumed with not how am I doing today, but consumed with, well, I want to reach my potential. And oh, by the way, because this leader saw something in me, I feel like I don't want to disappoint them.
Mm.
Like they believe in me. Maybe they believe in me more than I believe in me. And so today, I'm going to try and live up to the potential that they see. And let's just see if they're. It's just a completely different mindset that I think you can equip employees with when you start having potential conversations instead of just performance conversations.
Well, amen, because that's what Culture Partners, I sold my business to Culture Partners in 2021 because that's what they were about. Their mission, their why is our why, is to unleash the power of culture to inspire people and businesses to reach their full potential. Yeah. It's not to drive maximum performance, right. Although that's what ends up happening as an outcome. Sure. But reaching your full potential. So I love that. Okay, so we have a couple callers. Let's go to them and see what questions they have for you.
Hi, this is Liza Marley from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm a recent entrepreneur just starting out my journey in customer experience consulting, and I also have a passion project on the side that helps young professionals grow in their careers. So this question is for Ryan. You talk a lot about overcoming perfectionism, but how exactly do you reprogram that brain from someone who has been taught to strive for that perfect A their entire lives? How do you overcome that?
I think that the way that you overcome perfectionism is you're not looking for perfect. You're just trying to look for better. If you're waiting, perfect is unrealistic. It's just unrealistic. If you're waiting for it to be perfect, well, you'll never do anything. You'll never get started. But here's what I tell people all the time. You cannot improve the thing you refuse to start. Your podcast can't get better if you don't record episode 1. Your book can't get better if you don't at least put together an outline. Like, you gotta get started. I'm working on a book right now called How to Work with Complicated People. Where the outline was 2 months ago versus where it is today, it's almost a completely different book. But we're able to make it better every single day because we got started. It's not perfect. I don't know that it ever will be. You know what drives me crazy is being the author of 2 best-selling books that have typos in them drives me absolutely insane.
Do they really both?
Both. And I found both of them while reading the audiobook, and I was infuriated. I was infuriated, and at the same time, I was liberated. Because the funny thing is most people aren't going to read my book out loud. And these typos are very, very difficult to catch unless you're talking out loud. Because 35 people who are proofreading all read these books, and they didn't catch it. And neither did I. I'm not mad at them. But once I was reading it out loud, me and the audio engineer, like, that doesn't make any sense at all. I know. And he's looking at me like, but you're the idiot. Put it in a book. I'm like, I know. So, but it's liberating. It's apparently, this is what I've heard, to hit bestsellers list, your book doesn't have to be perfect. I didn't know that.
Talk about chasing failure.
I didn't know that. And here's the funny thing. In Chasing Failure, I talk about typos.
Do you talk about typos where the typo is?
No, I talk about typos, and I said, hey, and don't worry if you find a couple of typos. And I said it as a joke in the book.
It's almost like an Easter egg.
But now it's like, it ain't a joke. It was, I meant it to be a joke, but now it's a real thing because there are typos.
I love it.
So yeah, you can't perfect the thing you refuse to start. So I think it's the focus. The focal point should be around getting started and progress every single day. And then I think one day you wake up with something that I think can add value to the world around you, and it'll never be perfect. I sent a proposal off to someone the other day for it was like a $50,000 proposal for a whole rebrand for the company, a bunch of stuff. And I got their name wrong on the front cover page. Yep. Her name is not Lauren, it's Laura. And I knew
Did you get the deal?
And everywhere else, the name was correct. But just that front page, the one she got was that was a great first impression. It was awesome. I love it.
Did you get the deal?
Nope.
Amazing.
No, shocker, right? Who would have thought?
This guy.
Here's the deal, though. I mean, it was one of those things that one we didn't need. It was something brand new. It was actually out of the peer review of what we normally do, and we told them that, and so we had a great conversation about it and whatnot. But honestly, again, infuriated at myself at first, but then liberated to go.
Yeah.
You and I were talking about this the other day. We were like, hey, we don't do video in our keynotes. Why? Because too many production people have screwed it up. Well, how did we learn?
Burned.
How did we learn that?
Burned on stage and trying to
burned on
tap
stage.
dance through the audio video error. Brutal.
Yes, it was brutal, but we got something that most speakers don't have experience. So some people were like, dude, that was rough. I'm like, yeah, but I got the rough. You did it. And so the next time rough happens, I'll be ready.
What's funny, I've had the kind of career or whatever life that a lot of people have spent. The question I get asked a lot is like, how do you do it all? How do you get it all done? Or how do you fit it all in or whatever? They're trying to understand how I'm able to accomplish all the different types of things I'm working on at any given time or within 1 year. And
I
the
have a
answer,
question for you too. Yeah.
yeah, it's like you just keep doing the stuff and you
Yeah.
see what happens. Like the example is we were in Mexico on vacation and I go to an AA meeting in Mexico that's by the hotel and I sit down and this guy walks in with this amazing little black Labrador and he just is exuding love. And I'm a black lab lady and I haven't had a dog in many years. And I just knew that dog was my dog the second it walked in. And I said, oh my goodness, I love this little nugget. What's her name? What is going on with her? And he said, I just found her in the rainforest. Do you want her? I'm looking for her to have an owner. And I said, I freaking knew this was my dog. Yes, I want her. I totally want her. And then there's the thought in my head, but wait a minute, can you actually make this work? How are you going to get the dog back from Mexico? When are you going to walk a dog, given how busy your schedule already is? You got a 6-year-old and you live alone. How are you going to go for a walk with this dog when you've got the 6-year-old dog? And I said, I'm not going to worry about all of the what ifs. I'm just going to start making progress on this dog thing. So I called Delta. Delta, can I get this dog back? You know, how do I transport? What paperwork do I need? What size requirements? Anyway, I just kept going forward. And then in the end of the day, I couldn't bring the dog to Sacramento because Delta didn't allow it. He was too big, whatever. So then I figured my mantra is that I'm responsible for the effort and God's responsible for the outcome. So I made the effort. I just keep making the effort. And when something fails, it wasn't meant to be. I get back home and I'm like, well, maybe I'll get another dog. I'm thinking about it. The guy from the meeting texts and he's like, seeing you with that dog inspired me so much. I have a friend who's flying Air Mexico, which does allow traveling dogs, to San Francisco in a couple weeks. Do you still want the dog? It's like the dog came to me because of the effort. So I don't really worry about the outcomes. I just worry about the effort. And then things keep happening. And there are 1,000 things that I started that didn't get finished, but that no one knows about. And
100%.
maybe that's something. Okay, let's go to the last caller for you.
Hi, my name's Debbie Mitchell. I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I am a people operations leader specifically focused on employee engagement, culture building, and career coaching. My question for today is, what can individual contributors do, maybe people who aren't in leadership roles or people who are just starting out in their careers, how can they have the biggest impact on the culture of a team or their department or an organization?
Well, I love Debbie. Debbie is a dear friend, one of the sweetest people you're ever going to meet in life. And she has a very, very phenomenal question, because one of the things that we have is a podcast called Followership. It's the other side of leadership. It's this idea that regardless of the kind of leader that you have, whether they are amazing, just good, average, bad, you name it, the kind of leader that you have does not have to determine the kind of follower that you can be. Some people think, I work in a toxic environment, therefore I must be toxic. Well, no, I actually think that's really bad math. I actually think you have a lot of power over who you're going to be. And I actually think a person could have great influence on a team, regardless of their position in an organization. Like one of the ways that you can have influence and really stand out is one, generosity. And I'm not talking about just giving money. I'm talking about somebody that is truly willing to go above and beyond for others. It's actually pretty rare. You can be generous in how much you care about that team. You'd be surprised how much influence you'll have in somebody's life just because you care more than everybody else. So, for example, Jessica, you began this podcast with saying, hey, let me tell you how I first encountered Ryan. He called me, no agenda, just to see if there's anything he could do for me. You may be the 20th person this year that has said, hey, Ryan, you're the only person that does this. You're the only person in my world that calls. I'm like, what's up? I'm like, nothing. How are you? What do you mean, how am I? What do you do? Why? Because most of us have so many relationships with agendas. And so it's actually pretty rare for you to have a relationship that doesn't have an agenda. So you're just being nice, you're just being generous, you're just being kind. You do that in your organization, you'd be surprised at the amount of influence that you have. Do that, be consistent in that for 3-4 years. You'd be surprised where you find yourself just from just showing uncommon care in your organization. That decides to be a person that doesn't just ask people how they're doing, because 99% of people are gonna lie when you ask how they're doing. Because when you say, "Hey, how you doing?" Good. It's your natural response. Good. Hey, how's your daughter doing? She's good. You say it before you even think about it. Be the kind of person that says, "Hey, how you really doing?" They don't even know the answer until you make them actually go search for the answer. And now you have a real conversation. Now you're being very, very intentional. Trust me, you do that long enough, you'd be surprised at the amount of influence that you have in an organization and on a team, and to be able to make really, really great changes just from being just a little bit different. And one of the phrases I love to use is, you only have to be a little kind to make a big difference. Because most people don't experience kindness on a daily basis. It's pretty rare for them. And so some people think, I got to go do this massive gesture to make a difference in somebody's life. I'm like, actually, no, I think you just got to do a little one, because most people don't experience a thoughtful card. Most people get a text on their birthday, happy birthday. I like to send videos. If you're a close friend of mine, hey, you get a video, and I spend a minute telling that friend what they mean to me and the value they add to my life. I will say 9 times out of 10 when I send a video, what they write back is, "I got a lot of texts today. You're the only video I got." So I'm not patting my back. I'm just saying I have figured out how to be different. But at the same time, it's pretty normal in my, but I think if you want to continue to have influence, I think regardless of where you're at on the totem pole, I think showing uncommon care, being a person that is truly generous, I think you could make a huge difference in your world and in your organization.
I have one more question before I ask
Sure.
you the last question.
Okay.
And because I want to share, one of the most profound conversations I've ever had with you was a conversation about faith, which a lot of our conversations are about.
Sure.
And, I was asking you I asked you what your denomination was. I've still not found, I don't want to be spiritual, not religious. I want to be religious, not just spiritual. Okay.
Yeah.
But I can't find the religion that fits for me, because everyone says they're the one, which is a fundamental misunderstanding of the unknowing that we must have as mere humans that aligns with my beliefs.
Sure.
So I keep searching. Well, I keep going to new churches all the time. And I asked you about this, and you said the first thing you have to do is figure out your fundamentals.
Mm.
Can you share what your fundamentals are?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think when I say fundamentals, I think what are going to be some of your fundamental beliefs about God, about the world, about how to treat people. I think you need a fundamental around what you believe about money. I think that could really steer you in a lot of different directions. And so I think having those ground rules, if you will, for your life, to be able to say, okay, these are going to be some of my, we just use the word fundamentals. I really think they're personal values is really what it comes down to be able to, wake up in the morning. God is a loving God. He's not trying to punish me today. He's a loving God. I can start there. I'm forgiven. I'm not gonna try and earn something from God today. I'm not gonna get in God's graces because we're philanthropic. No, I'm in God's graces because of what Jesus Christ has done for me. And so, why is that a fundamental for me? It means every single day I don't have to prove myself to anybody. It also, I try not to use the phrase, I don't care what people think about me. No, I actually do. In fact, when you say I don't care what people think about me, you're actually disconnecting from the people that actually care about you. And so, no, you do have value. What you say does actually impact me. But at the same time, what you have to say about me doesn't control me. That's the difference. And so I think fundamentally, I wake up going, I don't have anything to prove because God has given me everything that I need. Something else is fundamental for me. A high level of contentment. Contentment is like a cousin of generosity, I think. I think you need contentment to be able to be generous because I think you need to be in a place where you can say, I have enough. I'm successful enough. I have enough, because sometimes we will attach our identity to how much we get. But when you get to a place where you go, I have enough. I have enough influence, I have enough followers, enough money, I have enough accolades. I have enough. Yeah, I'm hungry for more, but not for validation. I'm hungry for more because I love being able to impact a lot of people, and God's given me the ability to do so. Some other fundamentals around just how you treat people. I think that one of the questions I ask clients on pre-event calls is, who's the best speaker you've ever had and why? I'll never forget, I was getting ready to speak for State Farm, and they said, Coach Doc Rivers. I used to be a coach in the NBA, former coach of the year, NBA champion. And I said, yeah, Doc Rivers, he's known for these motivational speeches. So it's like, yeah, of course you would say that. And they said, but let me tell you why he's their favorite speaker of all time. He says, because he was agendaless. Which I don't even know that that's a word, but they used it. He said he was agendaless. He was truly there just to serve us. He didn't have an agenda, and we all felt it. And I thought that day, I said, I think that's the story I want people to tell about me. Agendaless. And he isn't looking over my shoulder to see who else is in there. Nope, he's just looking in my eyes. And I'm important, and I'm VIP to Ryan. And I think that's when you have that kind of fundamental of like people aren't pawns on a chessboard to you. You're not making moves, but you're genuinely interested in people and serving them and helping them win. Our mutual agent told me about a new and up and coming speaker. And I immediately said to him, I said, hey, feel free to put us in an email. I'd love to help him win in any way that I possibly can. And he's like, and this is Don Jenkins, but he goes, you do that? Sure. Like what, like, and Don didn't infer this, but I think this is inferred business. But that's your competition.
Fantastic. So my last question is my favorite question, which is, what is one thing that you don't get asked in these podcasts and the interviews you do at the keynotes that you wish more people would ask you?
What does it cost to be you?
What does it cost to be you?
Yeah, I think that there is a perception of what we do that is sexy, that feels like overnight something happened. But I think I get so many messages about speaking, how to break into the industry, and how do you get connected with an agent. But I don't think people are asking the right question. I think they need to be asking more people in a position like yours, like, hey, what price did you pay to be where you are? What did that mean for your motherhood for you to be where you are? What did that not just cost you? What did that cost your daughter? I don't think people are asking the right question. That's the question I wish people ask more of, like, hey, what did it cost your wife last year? What does it cost your children? What is it what does it cost to make custom keynotes for organizations 4 days before the event? Like, people say, oh, you just do it. It's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. I think successful people in general make their craft look easy, but it's never easy. So, and at the same time, you're not pulling out a violin to say, hey, woe is me. But I think for people that are aspiring to take things to the next level, sometimes I do think that they're asking the wrong questions. They want to know nuts and bolts and how do I do this? But I think to take a quote from a mentor of mine, John Maxwell, he said some of the best leaders and speakers and authors in the world we'll never know about because it was just too expensive and it was a cost they weren't willing to pay.
Beautiful.
So,
thank you, Ryan. It has
My
been an
pleasure.
absolute joy and such a privilege that you share your nuggets of wisdom with us today. And I am
Absolutely.
so grateful that you are my friend. Thank
Yes.
you for being
I'm
you.
grateful that you're my friend as well. It was a pleasure being on your podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Culture Leaders. I'm Dr. Jessica Kriegel, hoping you found inspiration in today's story. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts. And thanks for listening.
To connect and learn more about today's guest, visit the links section on this episode's show notes. Please be sure to connect with Jessica and the show at jessicakriegel.com. There, you'll be able to see all the episodes and learn more about transforming culture at your organization. This episode is a Culture Partners production. Until next time, keep shaping a positive culture. Thanks for listening.